Jack had never been very good at sneaking around. It wasn't for lack of trying. On the contrary, he had trained himself in all sorts of stealth techniques. He had learned from old human movies, virtual reality simulations, and a few questionable manuals he bought on a space station market. Yet somehow the universe seemed determined to remind him that clumsiness was, perhaps, his most natural talent. On this particular day, Jack was on Zareth Station, a massive hub orbiting a neutral star. Ships from countless alien civilizations docked here. Some were sleek and silvery, others bulky and armored like floating fortresses. The corridors were alive with movement, tentacled diplomats discussing trade, sleek-winged messengers delivering urgent data, and tourists gawking at the station's zero-gravity gardens. Jack moved through the crowd, adjusting his backpack and trying very hard to look like he belonged. He didn't belong. Not at all. His mission was simple, or so it seemed. Recover a rare artifact reported to be in a restricted area. The artifact was supposedly a fragment of a star crystal, a shimmering piece of pure energy encased in transparent metal. According to every rumor, whoever controlled the crystal had the ability to manipulate low-level gravitational fields. Small, but impressive power. Jack's plan was simple too. Slip in unnoticed, grab the artifact, and slip out before anyone knew he was there. He had done similar things before, usually without incident, though sometimes leaving minor chaos in his wake. But this time, things went spectacularly wrong. The restricted area was supposed to be empty. Security drones patrolled the hallways, but their patrol patterns were predictable. Jack had memorized them from the station map. He paused at a corner, waited for a drone to pass, then ducked through a sliding door marked with alien symbols, warning against entry. The room beyond was quiet. Soft, bluish lights reflected off smooth walls. Jack exhaled. "Piece of cake," he whispered. He moved further inside, stepping lightly. Or so he thought. His foot caught on a small energy cable running along the floor, and with a flailing motion, he stumbled forward. The world spun, his backpack flapped wildly, and before he could stop himself, he collided with someone standing just ahead. Jack froze, not because of the collision, but because he realized he had walked straight into someone who shouldn't have been here. Tara. She was not wearing the kind of outfit Jack expected in public spaces. In fact, she wasn't wearing anything at all. She turned sharply, eyes wide, her hands reaching instinctively for something on her belt. In one swift motion, a small energy blaster appeared in her grip, glowing faintly with blue light. Jack raised his hands, his eyes as wide as hers. "Wait, I swear I didn't, I mean..." Words failed him. Tara's tail. Yes, she had. A tail lashed back and forth, a sign of extreme irritation among her species. Her ears flattened, and she took a step closer. The blaster hummed softly, the energy blade extending in a shimmering arc. What are you doing here?" Her voice was firm, sharp, and clearly ready to end any misunderstanding with extreme efficiency. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but the words came out in a nervous stammer. I was looking for, the artifact. I didn't expect anyone. I'm really sorry." Her eyes narrowed. "That doesn't explain why you were staring at me like that." Jack panicked. Of course he was staring. He had accidentally walked in on her while she was changing. That was, by intergalactic law, possibly worse than trespassing. Possibly worse than being caught sneaking into a ship with a cargo hold full of alien bananas. He didn't know exactly because he had never expected to face this scenario, but he suspected it was bad. Very, very bad. I promise I looked away the moment I realized. I mean, yes, I looked briefly, but that was only because He stopped, realizing his explanations were worse than useless. Tara's blaster glowed brighter. "Step back." Jack complied. Stepping back in a straight line proved difficult. His foot caught again on the cable he had tripped over earlier, sending him into the nearest wall. The wall made a loud clang, echoing through the chamber. He winced. "Really?" he muttered under his breath. "Really, universe?" Tara's tail lashed again. "Do not test my patience, human." Jack swallowed. "Not testing. Totally not testing. Hi?" Just as he spoke, the door behind him slid open with a loud hiss. Security drones floated in. Their blue sensors swept the room, scanning for unauthorized activity. Tara's ears twitched. Jack's heart raced. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. The drones identified two intruders, one clearly unauthorized and another, well, Tara was officially a diplomat, but the drones had never seen a naked one before. Their sensors beeped in confusion. Jack made a split-second decision. He held his hands high, stepped toward the drones, and gave the most charming human grin he could muster under panic. Hi. Greetings, respected security units. I am completely authorized. Totally. Definitely authorized. The drones didn't respond. They were robots. They didn't care about charm. Tara sighed, lowering the blaster slightly, though she didn't put it away. Explain, she demanded. Jack nodded vigorously. Right, okay, you see, I was chasing a rare artifact. Very important artifact. Possibly universe-altering, but probably just shiny. Anyway, it was in a restricted area. I didn't know you were here. Honest mistake. Totally human mistake. Humans make mistakes all the time. I am very human. I am an excellent human, despite appearances. And, I am very, very sorry. Tara's eyes narrowed further. You humans are ridiculous. Jack took it as a compliment. Thank you. At that moment, the lead drone made a decision. Its blue eyes glowed brighter. It projected a holographic text in multiple languages, including Common Human. Unauthorized exposure to diplomat detected. Immediate remedial action required. Jack blinked. Remedial. What? Tara's expression went from irritation to horror. Oh no, not this. Not now. Jack, sensing danger, tried to step back further, only to bump into a console. Buttons lit up, alarms started beeping, and lights flashed red. Oh, fantastic, he muttered. Everything is going according to plan. Tara's tail whipped angrily. If this gets out, I am legally required to... She glanced at Jack. Take action. You are supposed to be punished. Jack's mind raced. Punished? By who? By what? And importantly, can he survive this? He did what any quick-thinking human might do. He smiled awkwardly, raised his hands again, and tried to explain. Look, I'm a human. We solve problems with clever thinking, not with violence. Well, sometimes with violence, but mostly clever thinking. Let's, think of a solution? Tara blinked, surprised by his audacity. You are trying to negotiate? Yes, Jack said quickly. Negotiate. Negotiation is our specialty. Humans negotiate everything. Space contracts, alien treaties, even accidentally walking in on diplomats. The drone's holograms flickered. Tara's blaster lowered slightly. Jack seized the moment. So, maybe we can fix this? Human style? Tara stared at him, indecision written clearly across her features. Then she gave a small, almost reluctant sigh. You humans are hopeless. But if you survive this, perhaps I can tolerate your presence for a while. Jack grinned, despite the adrenaline pumping through him. Tolerate? That's practically love in human terms. Tara's ears twitched. Do not speak nonsense. Jack backed up slowly, careful not to trip again. Right, nonsense avoided, totally under control, human charm in full effect. The drones, still scanning, seemed to pause as if considering this strange interaction. Jack took a deep breath. Somehow, some way, he had managed to avoid being vaporized, arrested, or worse, sentenced to an alien etiquette class for eternity. And, for a moment, Jack felt victorious, until he realized one very important detail. The artifact? Still not in his hands. The drones? Still scanning. The diplomat? Still holding a glowing blaster. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a quiet voice whispered. Jack had survived the initial embarrassment. Somehow, through a combination of nervous charm, flailing gestures, and what could only be described as pure luck, he had avoided being vaporized or arrested. For now. But his relief was short-lived. The lead drone hovered closer, its blue sensors scanning both him and Tara. Then, in an authoritative monotone, it projected a new holographic message. Unauthorized exposure of diplomat detected. Protocol 47B requires immediate remedial action.
Union ceremony.
Jack froze. He blinked. Union... What? Tara's tail lashed sharply. Oh no, not this. Humans really are hopeless. You walked in on me. This is forbidden. She pinched the bridge of her nose with her delicate fingers, exhaling sharply. By our laws, this situation demands a formal union, a wedding, immediately. Jack's jaw dropped. Wait, what? You're saying I have to marry you because I accidentally saw you naked? Tara's ears twitched and she pointed her blaster at him again, though the glow had softened. Not because it is the law. I have no choice, and neither do you. The station authorities will enforce this if we delay. Jack stumbled, backward. Enforce a wedding? He glanced at the drones. They were already hovering, their scanning lights sweeping over him like tiny judgmental eyes. You can't be serious. Tara sighed, a mixture of exasperation and disbelief on her face. Humans, you do not understand our customs. They are not flexible. They are final. Jack pinched the bridge of his own nose. Final. Right. Perfect. That makes sense. Totally logical. Yes, sure. He looked around for an escape route, but there was none. Every corridor was patrolled, every exit monitored. The artifact he had come for suddenly felt very, very small, in comparison to the massive problem now facing him. Okay. Let's not panic, he said, trying to convince both himself and the situation. Maybe there's a loophole. Maybe, human ingenuity can help? Tara tilted her head. Human ingenuity? Jack smiled awkwardly. Yes. You see, humans are very clever. We can solve problems in ways no one expects. We improvise. We adapt, we survive. Tara raised an eyebrow. Improvise? Yes, improvise. I mean, look at me. Jack gestured broadly to his slightly singed jacket, tangled hair, and the general chaos surrounding him. I've survived space stations, rogue drones, and, well, this exact scenario is new, but still. You see my point? Tara blinked, almost in disbelief. You actually expect me to believe that this is survival? Absolutely, Jack said, nodding enthusiastically. Humans are adaptable, and maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to make this, agreeable. Tara's tail flicked sharply. Agreeable? Jack nodded again. Yes. I mean, it's a wedding. Fun, right? Humans love parties and, food, music, dancing. Maybe this could turn out good? For a moment, Tara's ears twitched in confusion. Then slowly she lowered the blaster slightly. You are ridiculous. Thank you, Jack said immediately. It's a gift. The drones hovered closer. Their sensors projected another holographic text. Ceremony to proceed immediately. Delay is not authorized. Human male must comply. Jack groaned audibly. Okay. Compliance. Not my favorite, but I can manage. Probably. Tara turned to him, still holding the blaster loosely in her hand. Do you understand the consequences of refusal? Jack nodded slowly. Yes, they include more blaster pointing, some awkward stares, being forcefully dragged into a ceremonial hall. Check, check, and check. Her tail twitched again. Do not joke. This is serious. Humans are unpredictable, but our laws are clear. You are now my groom. Jack blinked. Groom? Wait, hold on. This is happening. Now? Yes, now. There is no waiting period. This is urgent. And the artifact can wait. Jack groaned. Of course. Why would the artifact matter when my social survival is on the line? At that moment, a small transport shuttle arrived at the docking bay near the chamber. A delegation of alien elders draped in ceremonial robes floated in. They were there to witness the union, their presence signaling that this was no ordinary misunderstanding. Jack gulped. Well, that escalated quickly. The lead elder, a tall being with shimmering silver skin and multiple eyes, addressed them. By the laws of the Interstellar Diplomatic Code, unauthorized exposure to a diplomat of noble rank requires immediate union. Delay is unacceptable. Male human, step forward. Jack stepped forward hesitantly, tripping slightly over his own feet. Right, forward. Step 1. Got it. Tara looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. You are clumsy, typical human behavior. Jack gave a sheepish grin. Thank you, I try my best. The elders began explaining the ceremonial protocol. Jack tried to follow along, but much of it made little sense. There were robes to wear, symbolic energy crystals to exchange, ritual gestures to perform, and for some reason a small gravity-defying dance that humans were apparently expected to master. Jack raised a hand. Can we maybe adjust some of this? You see, humans aren't very coordinated with zero gravity. The eldest elder blinked. Coordination is irrelevant. Protocol must be followed exactly. Improvisation is discouraged. Jack muttered under his breath. Well, that's disappointing. Tara surprisingly offered a small smirk. Do not think you can make excuses. You will follow the ceremony, human. Jack bowed dramatically. As you command, your, honor. Very honorable. The elders nodded, and the drones began arranging ceremonial robes and equipment around Jack and Tara. Jack took a deep breath, trying to focus on the positive. At least he wasn't in a combat situation. Yet. Tara noticed his attempt to stay calm. You are oddly calm for someone facing an immediate and legally binding marriage. Jack shrugged. Experience. Humans often face unexpected, awkward situations. We call it life, or bad luck, or both. She tilted her head. Perhaps I underestimated your species. Jack smiled. I will take that as a compliment. As they prepared for the ceremony, Jack realized something important. Despite the absurdity of the situation, he was actually starting to enjoy the chaos. Alien laws, zero-gravity robes, hovering drones. It was all bizarre, yes, but also exciting. He had faced danger before, but this was different. Here, human adaptability, humor, and quick thinking mattered more than brute strength or weapons. He glanced at Tara, who was adjusting her ceremonial robe, her posture stiff, but her expression betraying a hint of curiosity. Maybe, he thought, there was a chance to turn this situation around. Not just survive it, but actually succeed. Human ingenuity, he whispered to himself. Let's see what we can do. And for the first time since stepping into the restricted area, Jack felt a spark of hope. The wedding ultimatum was terrifying. The rules were strict. The audience was alien and formidable. But Jack was human. Humans thrived on impossible situations. Humans improvised. Humans survived. And if he played his cards right, he might even enjoy it. The ceremony would begin soon. The elders would watch. The drones would record. And somewhere, high above the station, the artifact he had come for waited, silent and indifferent. Jack exhaled. This was going to be one very long, very unusual, and very human adventure. The ceremonial hall of Zereth Station was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. It floated inside a massive chamber carved from gleaming crystal and metal, suspended above the station's central gravity core. Alien lights shimmered in soft waves, across the walls highlighting intricate patterns etched into the crystal, patterns that seemed to move when viewed from different angles. Jack stepped in cautiously, careful not to trip over the hovering platforms holding ceremonial robes, ornamental crystals, and various ritual devices. His hands fidgeted with his own robe, which had been thrown at him by one of the hovering drones. The robe was bright orange, awkwardly designed for human proportions, and as he quickly realized, impossible to put on correctly without assistance. Tara, meanwhile, moved with precision and grace. Despite her initial irritation at being exposed and the sudden wedding ultimatum, she handled the ceremonial preparations like a pro. She adjusted her flowing robes, tested the placement of her ceremonial crystals, and even helped the drones correct some of the floating equipment that had drifted too close to Jack. Jack, on the other hand, tripped on the hem of his robe and nearly fell into a hovering energy pedestal. Okay, he muttered under his breath. Step 1. Survive robe. Step 2. Survive ceremony. Step 3. Maybe survive myself. A small, hovering drone zipped over and offered polite assistance, but Jack's nerves made him flail rather than cooperate. One sleeve got caught on a crystal pedestal, causing a soft crash as it wobbled dangerously. Jack caught it just in time, panting. Tara's eyes narrowed, though she suppressed a smile. You are hopeless. How does your species survive daily life? Jack shrugged sheepishly. Luck, mostly luck. A hovering elder approached, its multiple eyes blinking in rapid sequence as it inspected Jack's robes. Human male, it said in a voice that resonated like a small bell. Your robe placement is inefficient. Adjust before the ceremony or the ritual will fail. Jack blinked. Inefficient? I thought it was stylish. He glanced at Tara. She agrees it's stylish, right? Tara raised an eyebrow. Do not ask me for fashion advice. Focus on surviving the ceremony without causing a diplomatic incident. Jack swallowed nervously. Right. Survive. Focus. Survive. Got it. The drones hovered closer, holding the ceremonial energy crystals, glowing stones that, according to tradition, represented trust, honor, and mutual respect. Jack took one awkwardly, its surface surprisingly warm to the touch. It hummed softly, responding to his heartbeat. He looked at Tara, who had already picked up hers, holding it with careful precision. Jack frowned. Do I just hand it over? Or, juggle it first? Tara's tail flicked sharply. Do not joke. You will follow the ceremony exactly as instructed. Jack exhaled. Right. Follow instructions. Humans are great at instructions. Mostly. As they moved to the ceremonial platform, Jack noticed something interesting. The hall was alive. Not in a literal sense, but in the way light shifted across the crystal surfaces, in the soft hum of energy coursing through the floor, in the floating devices hovering in anticipation. It was designed to impress and intimidate, but also to remind anyone present of the seriousness of the ritual. Jack's human instinct kicked in. While many would be intimidated by the sheer alien spectacle, he saw opportunities. Small gaps in the floating platforms, loose grips on the ceremonial crystals, minor shifts in gravity fields. All of these could be used to adapt if something went wrong. Human ingenuity, he reminded himself, always found a way. The elders began instructing them on the ceremony. It involved several steps. Wearing the robes properly, Jack was still struggling. Exchanging energy crystals, performing a ritual, gesture of unity, somewhat like a human handshake but with multiple movements of hands, feet, and eyes. A gravity-defying dance across the platform, swearing the vows in multiple languages simultaneously. Jack's stomach tightened. Step 4. Gravity dance. This is gonna be fun, he muttered sarcastically. Tara's tail flicked in irritation. The first challenge came immediately. Jack tried to adjust his robe as instructed. The sleeves were too long, the hem dragged across the floor. He stepped on the edge, stumbled, and nearly collided with Tara. She caught him just in time, her eyes narrowing. You are impossible, she said softly. Jack smiled sheepishly. I like to think of it as adding character. Character? She repeated, incredulous. Yes, distinctive human character, Jack replied, bowing slightly and tripping over the hem again. Tara sighed, stepping aside to let him recover. The elders frowned but did not intervene. Apparently, human mistakes were interesting, if not appreciated. Jack took a deep breath and focused on the energy crystal exchange. He held it awkwardly, unsure if he was supposed to bow, tilt it, or simply hand it over. Tara, sensing his uncertainty, gave him a small nod. Just place it gently, she said. Do not break it. Do not throw it. Do not juggle it. Jack chuckled nervously. No juggling. Got it. Note taken. He placed the crystal down gently. The platform pulsed softly, confirming the action was correct. A small drone beeped in approval. Jack allowed himself a tiny smile. One successful step. Next came the ritual gesture. Jack had to perform a series of movements with his hands, feet, and eyes, matching Tara's movements precisely. He tried to follow her, but gravity was playing tricks on him. He stumbled, almost tipping over the edge of the floating platform. Tara adjusted her movements slightly to match his awkwardness, preventing disaster. Jack whispered, "Thanks. That's very kind." She gave him a small smile, the first genuine expression of warmth he had seen from her. "Do not mistake this for affection. I am simply pragmatic." Jack nodded, though he suspected she was smiling because humans were entertaining. "Pragmatic, right? Got it. I like pragmatic smiles. Very reassuring." Then came the gravity-defying dance. Jack's stomach churned at the thought. He had no idea how humans were supposed to move gracefully in low gravity, while also performing precise ceremonial steps. As he stepped onto the floating platform, he nearly slipped, arms flailing wildly. Tara grabbed his elbow to steady him. "Human, you will kill us both," she said, though her voice had a hint of amusement. Jack grinned. "Only if we both fall, but that's unlikely. Very unlikely." He moved cautiously, step by step, matching Tara as best he could. To his surprise, the elders watched intently, and a few even leaned slightly forward, his human creativity and improvising movements, adjusting quickly to gravity shifts, using momentum to balance and occasionally spinning accidentally but landing safely, seemed to intrigue them. Jack whispered to himself, "See? Human ingenuity, not clumsiness, not chaos. Ingenious, balance in motion, definitely impressive." The final step was the vows. Jack was expected to speak in multiple alien languages while Tara did the same. He had memorized a few phrases, but the words sounded like tongue twisters. He stumbled over some sounds, mispronounced others, and invented a few words entirely by mistake. Tara corrected him gently, and together they managed a functional, if imperfect, recital. At the end, the drones beeped in approval. The elders exchanged glances, and Tara looked at Jack, her expression unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, she nodded. "You are surprisingly competent for a human," she admitted. Jack grinned, chest puffed with pride. "Thank you. That's what I do. Competence is my specialty." She tilted her head. "You adapt well under pressure. Perhaps your species is not entirely unworthy of survival." Jack laughed quietly. "Not unworthy. I like that. Very diplomatic phrasing, I approve." As the ceremony progressed, Jack realized something important. Despite the ridiculous situation, walking in on a naked alien, forced wedding, gravity dancing, multi-language vows, he felt alive in a way he hadn't felt in years. The stakes were high, the challenge was immense, and yet humans thrived on challenges like this. He also noticed a change in Tara. Her initial irritation had softened slightly. She had begun to observe his quick thinking, his improvisation, and his ability to stay calm despite chaos. The first seeds of trust and perhaps something more were being planted. Jack whispered to himself, "Humans survive. Humans adapt. Humans sometimes make weddings fun." But even as he thought this, a small warning nagged at the back of his mind. The universe had a way of throwing complications at him, and he knew this situation was far from over. Already minor vibrations shook the hall, possibly from nearby docking ships or the station's gravity core. And somewhere in the distance, unseen, a new problem was approaching, one that would test both human ingenuity and the fragile alliance forming between him and Tara. Jack squared his shoulders. Whatever came next, he would face it. Because that was what humans did. They faced the impossible, improvised, and survived. And for now, he had survived the ceremonial preparations. That, he decided, was a small victory worth celebrating. Jack had survived the wardrobe disasters, the gravity dance, and the multi-language vows. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to breathe. Maybe, just maybe, the worst of Xereth Station's interstellar wedding madness was over. He was wrong. The first warning came as a low metallic hum, not from the station itself but from outside the ceremonial hall. Jack turned, squinting at the massive crystal windows lining the chamber. Docking ships were normally quiet here. But now, one vessel moved with uncharacteristic speed, its silhouette unfamiliar. Tara's ears twitched sharply. That is unauthorized. She gripped her blaster instinctively. Rogues. They intend to disrupt the ceremony, possibly kidnap me for leverage. Jack's heart jumped. Kidnap? Us? Now? He glanced around. The elders were still finishing their ceremonial inspections, oblivious to the approaching danger. Little heads up next time? Tara ignored him. There is no next time. The rogue ship's energy signatures flared, and before anyone could react, a small team of heavily armed figures teleported directly onto the ceremonial platform. They moved with efficiency and deadly precision. Jack instinctively stepped in front of Tara, raising his hands as though sheer bravado could protect them both. Back! Stay away! He shouted. The rogues ignored him. One of them aimed a blaster at Tara. She flinched but did not fire. Jack's human instincts, honed through years of dangerous exploration, took over. Okay, think fast. Humans improvise, he muttered. He scanned the hall. Floating platforms, hanging ceremonial crystals, low-gravity corridors. These could all be used. He grabbed a nearby ceremonial pedestal and shoved it toward the nearest rogue, who stumbled backward. Tara's eyes widened, then narrowed. She realized Jack's chaotic method had created an opening. Human. You are insane, she said, ducking as Jack swung a small hovering platform like a battering ram. Insane? No. Strategic. Totally strategic, Jack called back. The rogue team quickly regained balance, firing their weapons in controlled bursts. The energy bolts sparked against the crystal walls, sending harmless but loud shocks through the platform. Jack ducked, rolled, and used a loose cable from the ceremony setup to trip one of the rogues. The man fell, his blaster skidding across the floor. Tara, impressed despite herself, quickly recovered. She aimed her blaster carefully and disabled another rogue by hitting the weapon's power source, sending it harmlessly sparking into the air. Jack grinned. See? Humans adapt, humans improvise, humans win. She raised an eyebrow. Do not count your victories yet, human. There are still many of them. Jack's grin faded as two more rogues advanced from the docking bay. They moved quickly, using gravity shifts to float above the platforms, intending to corner him. Jack's mind raced. Gravity shifts, platforms, crystals, he muttered, scanning for solutions. He grabbed a floating crystal, hurled it toward the ceiling where it bounced off a gravity stabilizer, ricocheting into one rogue. The rogue yelped, flailing in midair before crashing onto the platform. Tara's tail flicked rapidly. You may actually survive this. Jack gave a thumbs up, even as another rogue aimed directly at him. He grabbed a ceremonial banner hanging from the ceiling and swung it like a sling, knocking the attacker off balance. The rogue barely caught himself on the edge of the platform. See? Human creativity. Totally practical. Totally effective. Tara finally joined him fully in the fray. Working together, they moved with surprising coordination. Jack improvised, traps and distractions, using ceremonial props and the zero-gravity environment, while Tara fired precise shots that disarmed the rogues without causing permanent harm. One rogue tried to grab Tara, thinking he could neutralize her quickly. Jack lunged, tackling the rogue in a flurry of arms and legs, sending them both tumbling. He rolled expertly, using momentum to push the rogue toward a floating platform, which tipped and gently knocked the man unconscious. Tara looked at Jack, a mixture of astonishment and admiration on her face. Your species is unpredictable but effective. Jack brushed himself off. Thank you. That's what humans do. Chaos, plus quick thinking, equals survival. Another rogue attempted to use a gravity pulse to destabilize the platform. Jack noticed the small console controlling the pulse and dove toward it, sliding across the slippery surface. With a quick twist of his hand, he redirected the pulse, upward, sending the rogue floating helplessly toward the ceiling. Tara's eyes widened. Human, that was clever. Jack grinned. Clever is my middle name. Well, not officially, but it should be. The remaining rogues hesitated, realizing that this pair, one unpredictable human and one precise alien diplomat, were not easy targets. Jack seized the moment. He grabbed a ceremonial crystal and used it like a makeshift blaster, the energy pulsing harmlessly but startling the rogues. They stumbled backward, giving Tara the opening to neutralize them with careful, non-lethal shots. Finally, the last rogue tried to escape through the docking bay. Jack leaped, catching the rogue by the arm and using a combination of strength and momentum to swing him back toward the center of the hall. Tara followed up, aiming her blaster just enough to ensure compliance without injury. The rogues were subdued. Floating drones moved in to contain them safely, while the elders observed silently, their multiple eyes blinking in approval. Tara exhaled, lowering her blaster. That was unnecessary, but effective. Jack wiped his brow, panting slightly. Effective is good. Humans like effective. Makes life easier. She looked at him, her expression softening slightly. You are strange, yet you saved this ceremony and perhaps my life. I owe you respect, human. Jack gave a small bow. Respect received. Thank you, Your Excellency. He paused, then added with a grin, and maybe a little admiration too? Tara's ears twitched. Do not misinterpret. Jack laughed quietly. Noted. Not misinterpreting. Definitely respecting. Even as the adrenaline faded, Jack realized something important. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, often dismissed as clumsy, unpredictable, and weak. Yet here, in the chaos of a rogue attack, his species' ingenuity, adaptability, and creativity had turned the tide. They had survived, not just by brute force but by thinking fast, improvising and staying calm under pressure. Tara's glance confirmed it. She had seen it all. Jack's quick thinking, the improvised traps, his ability to turn a chaotic environment into a tactical advantage. Perhaps, she thought, humans were not entirely foolish after all. The elders, meanwhile, whispered among themselves, apparently impressed with the humans' unorthodox methods. One elder approached Jack, multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. Human male, it said, its voice resonating like crystal chimes. Your actions demonstrate adaptability, courage, and cleverness, qualities most species lack. You have exceeded expectations. Jack grinned. Thank you. Humans aim high, or at least trip toward success. Tara's tail flicked. You are oddly charming for a human. Perhaps this union will be less tedious than expected. Jack's heart skipped a beat. Less tedious? That sounded like a compliment. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for the ceremony to proceed with some mutual understanding. But he knew better than to relax completely. In space, chaos was never far away. The rogues were contained for now, but there were always new threats, new challenges, and new situations that would test both humans and aliens alike. Jack squared his shoulders. Whatever came next, he would face it. He had survived the wardrobe disaster, the gravity dance, and a rogue attack. Humans survived impossible situations. Humans adapted. Humans improvised. And Jack was living proof. Tara glanced at him, her expression unreadable but slightly warmer than before. Human, your species is unusual, perhaps capable of trust. Jack grinned. Trust, yes, that's my specialty. Well, one of them. For now, Zareth Station was safe, the rogues were subdued, and the ceremony could continue. But Jack knew the adventure wasn't over. The universe had a way of turning even the simplest situations into chaos, and humans, he reminded himself, thrived in chaos. With Tara at his side, he felt ready. Whatever came next, he would improvise, adapt, and survive. Because that was what humans did. The ceremonial hall was quiet again, though the hum of Zareth Station's gravity core reminded everyone present that life never truly paused. Jack wiped a thin layer of sweat from his forehead, glanced at Tara, and took a deep breath. All right, he muttered under his breath. Wedding, survive, impress, maybe even enjoy. Tara's tail flicked in mild irritation. Do not presume enjoyment, human. Focus on compliance. Jack grinned. Compliance. Right. Totally fun word for the situation. The elders, floating gracefully in their robes, nodded at the pair. The ceremony was about to proceed to its final stage, the formal vows. Normally, this would be a solemn moment, full of ritual and gravitas. But Jack, being human, had already proven that solemnity was optional when survival was on the line. He glanced at Tara. She was adjusting her robes with precision, every movement elegant and deliberate. Her expression was calm, though her eyes betrayed a hint of curiosity that Jack could not fail to notice. Human male, one elder intoned. You will speak your vows in 3 languages, Common Human, Zathari, and Voryak. Jack swallowed. 3 languages. Got it. Easy, totally easy. Inwardly, he panicked. He could barely manage English under pressure, let alone alien languages. But improvisation was his specialty. Humans thrived on improvisation. He stepped forward, cleared his throat, and began. I, Jack, pledge to, support, respect, and occasionally entertain. He glanced at Tara, who gave a small nod. This remarkable, intelligent, and very fascinating individual. Tara. The elders blinked multiple times, their expressions unreadable. Tara's ears twitched, but her tail had stopped lashing, a small victory for Jack's nerves. He continued, stumbling slightly through Zathari words he had memorized only minutes ago. Each phrase sounded awkward, yet he delivered it with confidence. I will navigate challenges and missteps, as a human would, with ingenuity, courage, and occasional clumsiness. Tara raised an eyebrow. Clumsiness? Really? Human? Jack grinned sheepishly. Hey, it's honest. And effective, apparently. Finally, he attempted Voryak, one of the most difficult of the ceremonial languages. His pronunciation was terrible. He twisted vowels and consonants, misaligned syllables, and invented a few entirely. Yet somehow, it worked. The elders nodded in cautious approval, perhaps impressed by his audacity if not accuracy. Tara, surprisingly, allowed herself a small smile. You persist, and you survive. I will acknowledge your effort. Jack beamed. Acknowledgement. Excellent. Humans love acknowledgement. Thank you. The next step involved the ceremonial energy crystals. Jack and Tara were to exchange them while standing on floating platforms. Gravity remained unpredictable, making balance a constant challenge. Jack stepped carefully, adjusting his robe and hopping lightly to match Tara's movements. He held the crystal out, letting it hover in his hand. Tara mirrored him precisely. Then, in perfect unison, they placed the crystals on a pedestal, the platform pulsing softly in response. The elders nodded, the drones beeped in approval, and for a moment Jack felt triumphant. One more step, he whispered to himself. The final dance. The gravity-defying ritual dance had terrified him before, but now it was a test of timing, focus, and trust. Jack followed Tara, matching her steps as best he could. Occasionally he flailed, arms windmilling, feet slipping yet somehow managing to maintain balance. Tara adjusted with subtle gestures, ensuring they remained synchronized. Jack whispered, See? Humans adapt. Humans dance. Sort of. Tara's tail flicked, this time less sharply and more like a gentle tap. Remarkably clumsy, but persistent and effective. The dance concluded with a flourish as Jack and Tara landed on the platform safely, the crystal pedestal glowing in recognition of their success. The elders exchanged impressed glances. One elder even tilted forward slightly, blinking multiple times, a sign of approval among their kind. Jack exhaled. Survived. Impressed elders. Still alive. Humans. Doing well. Tara looked at him, her eyes softening. You have exceeded expectations, human, not only in survival, but in adaptability, courage, and creativity. Jack smiled, a mixture of pride and relief. Creativity. Yes, that's us. Humans full of creative problem-solving, especially in weddings and rogue attacks. The final step was the ceremonial oath, spoken together. Jack and Tara repeated words of commitment, respect and mutual protection. Despite his initial fear, Jack found his voice steady, each word reinforced by experience, surviving unexpected danger, working together, and improvising under pressure. Tara spoke clearly, deliberately, and for the first time, her voice carried warmth rather than strict formality. Jack noticed it immediately. "I like this version of her," he whispered to himself. As they concluded the ritual, the elders nodded. The drones projected a congratulatory pattern of lights signifying that the union was complete. Jack looked at Tara, and she looked back at him. "Human, you have survived," she said softly. "And you have impressed me." Jack's grin widened. "Impressed, excellent, that's what humans do best. Impress, survive, adapt, repeat." Tara's tail flicked lightly, a subtle gesture of approval. "Do not think this changes everything, but perhaps and we can tolerate each other more than I expected." Jack chuckled. "Tolerate or enjoy? There's a difference, you know." She blinked. "Do not presume, but yes, perhaps, maybe." For the first time, Jack realized that this absurd, chaotic, and almost dangerous wedding had accomplished more than survival. Humans had shown ingenuity, bravery, and adaptability. Tara had seen it all, and perhaps begun to respect it. The elders addressed them one final time. "The union is complete. Both parties have demonstrated strength, courage, and honor. This ceremony will be recorded in the annals of Zareth Station history as unconventional, yet successful." Jack gave a small bow. "Annals of history? Very fancy. Humans appreciate historical recognition." Tara allowed herself a faint smile. "You are unusual, human. Perhaps not entirely disagreeable." Jack grinned. "I'll take that as a win. Humans survive. Humans thrive. Humans occasionally get married by accident." The ceremony concluded with a small celebration. Floating drones delivered refreshments, ceremonial music filled the air, and the elders floated off to resume their duties. Jack and Tara stood side by side observing the hall. Jack nudged her gently. "So, first rogue attack survived, gravity dance survived, vows survived. Humans really are impressive." "Huh?" Tara's ears twitched. "You speak too much, human, but yes, you have earned your place in this ridiculous ceremony." Jack laughed softly. "Place earned. Adventure survived. HFY achieved?" Tara tilted her head, almost thoughtfully. "Perhaps, yes. For Jack, the entire ordeal, accidental exposure, forced wedding, rogue attack, gravity-defying dance, had proven one thing. Humans were underestimated, often clumsy, yet capable of astonishing creativity, courage, and resilience." Tara, meanwhile, realized that despite her species' strict traditions, this human was exceptional. He had survived where others would have failed. He had adapted where others would have faltered. And in the chaos of Zareth Station, he had not only survived, but had earned a measure of respect. Jack finally relaxed, leaning back slightly. "Well, wedding survived, humans impressed aliens, and I think, maybe, just maybe, I made a friend, maybe more." Tara's ears twitched in acknowledgement. "Friendship, perhaps. Mutual respect, definitely. The rest, time will tell." Jack grinned, feeling the weight of the day lift. "Time, yes. Humans, very good with time. Especially surviving weddings." Above them, the station hummed steadily, the gravity core spinning in quiet cosmic rhythm. Outside, ships continued their endless dance in orbit. Jack looked at Tara and she looked back. Neither spoke for a moment, simply acknowledging the shared experience, the chaos, the danger, the ceremony, and the improbable partnership forged in the heart of Zareth Station. Jack whispered quietly. Humans really can do anything. Tara's faint smile was all the confirmation he needed. And so, in the middle of a busy interstellar station, under the watchful eyes of alien elders and hovering drones, a human had survived the impossible. He had turned chaos into cooperation, danger into ingenuity, and an accidental wedding into a story worth telling. Because that was what humans did. They survived. They adapted. They thrived.